Welcome to Kyle and Cody's Called Cinema Cast. I'm Kyle, and this is Cody, who's going to tell you what he did over the winter break.
Nothing. I went up and we visited my family up in Maple Creek, so
Watch
that's
anything?
about it. No, but actually, ironically enough, I was sitting down and it was really late, and it is, I think, the day before Christmas, and so I was flipping through because my parents still have satellite dish.
Mm-hmm.
Who the fuck uses a satellite dish anymore? It's all over Netflix. But anyways, I was flipping through, and I found Black Christmas
Oh,
playing on one of the channels. So at like 2 o'clock in the morning, like Christmas Eve, I was watching Black Christmas.
nice. I
Wasn't
I
horrible.
watched. Yeah, no. I watched the first two Bad Boys movies because I got them for my
Um,
brother-in-law, and was like, yeah, I kind of want to watch those. So I looked them up on Netflix, and yeah, so that was all right.
uh,
It's not as
there's only
good.
two Bad Boys to like, right?
No, there's a third one now, fairly recent. It was
Okay, is
I
the
think
third one.
2019 or
Okay.
whatever. But I like that one a lot more actually because the first two are Michael Bay, which I knew, but I figured it's early Michael Bay. It might be better, and it wasn't. It was better than like Transformers because like Will Smith and Martin Lawrence can at least are like carrying the movie and like can at least like convince the audience that they're actually friends, which is something that's difficult for Michael Bay to convey. Because like every character in those movies is at each other's throat, and it was nice to at least have some protagonists that like, okay, at least they understand that they're both friends or whatever. So that was a big thing, and I finally got around to. I bought the DVD a while ago, but I watched the old early 2000s TV series Cyber Six. I don't know. It was on. Do you remember? You don't remember anything about that show, Cyber Six? Have you ever seen any of that?
Like it
It was an
doesn't
animated show.
ring any bells, but
Yeah.
if
I'll
I
send you a
saw,
picture here or Google it, whatever.
no,
Nope. Yeah. No.
1990,
Was it? Oh. No. Okay. No. There's two Cyber Six shows. There's an animated series.
1999.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah. There's an earlier
is what I
one.
meant to say.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all right.
It's an Argentinian comic book
Yeah.
published in 1991. Yeah, I've never heard of it.
I think it's a trans allegory. I think it's a trans movie. It's a trans show. Oddly enough, like I'm pretty sure that's a pretty firm like about. I'm pretty sure Cyber Six, the character, is a trans woman. So interesting. I think I'm sure there's some community for it. I just need to look it up and confirm that. I won't get into it now. We'll do that another time because I don't. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not like an expert, and I don't want to like basically claims like full on claim that this is a that's what that is, but I'm pretty darn sure. But this week we are reviewing following up on probably our most popular episode that's not like the origin like our first episode, which is always getting a little bit more traffic. But this
Mhm.
is yeah, our episode for Goon in season 2 did very well, so I instantly threw this on the sequel on the season 3 list because I'm trying to get views and whatnot. Yeah, it's yeah. This was so yeah. This is by popular demand, kind of. It's because that was just a hugely popular episode, actually, for us anyway. It didn't like meaning I got like really good number of views. So, but yeah, this we're doing the sequel this week, Goon: The Last of the Enforcers. I don't know. I don't know. Do you think it's? What do you think? How do you think this pairs up with the last one? Is this a step down?
Um, I had this open at one point in time. Step down. I'm gonna say it had some aspects of the original movie to it, but and it had other aspects of like stuff that I enjoy watching movies about, but it just didn't I don't know. It felt like the original was kind of this sleeper hit that kind of
Wasn't really a
surpassed
hit
all
either. It lost
expectations.
money.
It lost a lot of money, but
Yeah.
people liked it.
Yeah. I think it made up its DVD sales or whatever, and this didn't make money either.
Mhm.
It's oh, there's no information for the budget on Wikipedia.
We just know it made $1.2 million
Yeah,
at the
which is
box office.
less, quite a bit
So
less. See if IMDb says anything. But yeah, I think it's still pretty good. It's just like a little step down, which wasn't like I was led to believe it was a lot worse. But
they make Sean Williams' character in the original film felt somewhat intelligent, and in this movie, it feels like they just dumbed him down for like comedic
I don't know, it
purposes.
felt the same to me. So maybe I just don't remember the first film all that well.
Yeah.
But I felt he was sort of similar. But no, it doesn't have. Yeah, no, I can't find the budget anywhere. This time, the film's directed by Jay Burryshell, who's the character that plays Pat. He moved up to directing duties for this one. This is his first movie. I think he does pretty well,
Mhm.
and I mean he's in the movie less this way, so that's always a plus. He's, I mean, the worst character. He's really
Yeah, but
bad in
like
this.
I don't know. Yeah, no, he was not good in this, and it feels like he was. I guess he was in an awkward position when you have to like. You went from. I think he might have even written the first one.
Oh yeah,
I
he
could
wrote the
be wrong.
first one.
Um,
Yeah, he co-wrote the first one anyway.
yeah, writer and producer, and like he's only done one other directorial work since then. He wrote a movie called Random Acts of Violence in 2019. Um, maybe it's good. I don't know.
Yeah, this also took 7 years to make, or yeah, it was it. Let's see. It says it got announced in 2012, but they didn't get it anywhere until 2015. Essentially, I think they were just in talks for 3 years. They maybe had a script already, but yeah, in 2015, he said he would be renewing. He would be reviewing it. All the actors returned, which is nice. I don't think they don't replace anyone. I did have to check because Eva, Ava, yeah, Ava, is looks a good bit different in this. Though it's 7 years later, and I guess she just yeah, she looks a bit different in this. Did you get that impression? Did Allison Pill look a bit?
Sorry, what were you saying?
Allison Pill looks a lot different in this than she did in the first one.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah,
I don't, I don't know what to tell you.
yeah. Yeah, no, I just needed to check it out. I needed to look it up because I wasn't entirely
But
sure.
yeah, I'd like to point out that they were. She was pregnant during this whole.
True. Yeah. No. Yeah. No.
Like
Totally
I don't know
justified.
if
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
if Allison Pill was pregnant or if the character she was portraying was pregnant throughout the movie.
I don't know. She does have one child.
Born in 2016, so I mean, theoretically,
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
I don't
That
know
would
when
match
this
up.
movie was created.
Which, I mean, if they had to that, maybe, but I mean, like, I don't know if they wrote the baby into the movie, but they did a good job of it anyway. Like, they didn't.
Hmm.
That clearly wasn't a big uh, bad thing for them because it worked out pretty well. I thought the pregnancy plot worked good in this. They realize pretty early on that she's in the movie that she's pregnant, and she gives birth just before the third act, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, all the actors return. We get a few new guys. We got the Kane father son duo. Wyatt Russell plays the villain in this, Anders Kane, and then Callum Keith Rini plays Hiram Kane, his father. That's such a generic last name for a villain, is Kane. I wish they could have picked something else. That's pretty too on the nose. TJ Miller's in this movie, which was a bad sign for me. I don't like him some of the time. Like he rubs me the wrong way when he's bad.
Yeah, but like I liked the the idea behind his character. I don't necessarily like his character.
Yeah, he wasn't. He's not the worst T.J. Miller character by a long shot, but he plays a.
Which one is that?
I hated him in Transformers 4, like maybe more than anything.
I have notoriously not watched any of the Transformers past when they took out Shia LaBeouf. So
Yeah, I mean, they don't get better. They get, if anything, worse.
okay,
Dad
well,
actually had that on the air on the TV a little while ago, and they were switching like different camera frames between shots. Like one would be, like they do a shot
mhm,
that was like 4:3 and then go into widescreen and then back and forth, and that was really fucking jarring. There's no reason for that.
yeah,
But anyway, TJ Miller goes side by side. He plays a sports host on Sportsnet beside James Duthie from TSN, and they play some sportscasters and they do some jokes. The joke is that TJ Miller doesn't know anything. He's just shouting random stuff, which works sometimes. It's not like the funniest joke in the movie, but it's okay sometimes. Yeah, it's I yeah, the tone's pretty similar with this one. Between like them sharing a screenwriter, and it seems like I don't know, maybe like I'm blanking on his name. Fucking maybe Jay Burryshell. Burryshell. I'm not doing that right. I don't know. I think he paid a good bit of attention to how the first movie was shot, and he did it quite similar. And I think he does a decent job of like keeping the movies feeling the same. You wouldn't get the impression of this that there's a big change in director here, so that's a good sign. I guess my next point is just going to involve us getting into the plot, so I think we go into the plot. The movie starts with a little bit of a information dump from like a sportscaster. We get informed that there's an NHL lockout, so a bunch of guys are going down to the minor leagues to play this season because the NHL's locked out. Not sure that's how that works. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's been a while since the last lockout. But essentially, the new owner of the team, Hiram Kane, he owned the team is the Halifax Highlanders. For those of you that forgot, I don't know why I said that all accusatorily. That's not your fault. You don't need to watch these movies before I do. Why did I do that? I don't know. Keep moving. Keep moving. But yeah, Hiram's the new GM of the team. That's for those of you who don't know sports. Big sports teams are generally have are have like the general manager who's like a manager of the business sides of things. He bounces the books and like keeps makes decisions about like coaching staff and who you can hire and whatnot. It's actually pretty it can be make or break for some of these professional teams. But essentially Hiram's on the warpath trying to get a cup, like whatever the cup is for this minor league, the Maritime Hockey League, and essentially he wants the plan is to like take advantage of this lockout to do a big push for the playoffs. Although the weird thing is, I don't think they add any new. They maybe add one new player to the team during this movie. I don't feel like they emphasize this enough that it's in a lockout year and they're making a big playoff push. It would have been nice if there would. It would have been interesting if there was like a couple extra players showing up to be like NHL guys and they're like putting some new power behind the team. But I guess that just didn't make it into the script.
I don't know if that's actually something that works the way you make it out to be because NHL players sign contracts.
Oh yeah, no, I think I said that earlier that I don't know that's how that's worked.
Okay, so not all NHL players have two-way contracts. Some NHL players only specifically play in the NHL. I don't know if they could be sent down to the minor leagues if they have it in their contract that they can't be sent down to the minor leagues.
I don't remember what it said if this is like if some of these are farm teams. Because if they're farm teams, you might just have your lower guys just going and like spending their time there so they can stay like active. But we don't see a lot of that in this movie either way. But the implication is that there's some higher caliber of players floating around. I think the one guy Stevenson and one of the goalies is the new characters who would be the new guys, but the goalie is kind of a dumb idiot. Or he's like, I shouldn't say that because he's like a weird Eastern European guy or like Northern European guy, and that's the joke. And they kind of
Mhm.
this movie gets a little like making fun of people for being foreign in this, which is weird. I did definitely hear like like a fake humor, like air quotes humorous Chinese accent in one of the scenes, although it's like a quick second long joke. It's not like a maintain. It's not like a long thing.
Yeah.
Like I get the Russian guys, but they added a few more of the. They added a lot more of that in this season. It felt like. But yeah, this lockout concept is interesting. I just don't feel like they use it enough.
No, it's definitely underutilized. And like I mean that could have been a story in and itself where like what's his face? Um Doug isn't used to like just the high level of well, okay, how did the last Goon movie end?
It ended with Doug beating up Ross Rhea and who's the villain of that movie, and he won the fight, and then Xavier Laflamme scored like a hat trick and won them the game, getting them into the playoffs, and that was the whole
Okay.
thing.
For some reason I thought it accumulated with Doug walking in or walking out on the ice in the last episode. Like, apparently that's not at all a part of the film.
Yeah, I don't know if he's up and Adam at the end of the last one, but I know that's like
No,
the
he
gist
definitely
of the
wasn't.
climax. Yeah.
I thought by the end of the movie it would it showed that Doug Glatt was signed on by the Philadelphia Flyers for some reason, but apparently that never happened, and it was just like a weird fever dream of mine that never actually took place. So,
Is that the? Mm, yeah, no, I don't know. Who does the character Doug's based on? Hold on.
you're probably talking about Doug Smith.
Yeah, Doug Smith. There was what team was he on at all? Did he or was he even in the
He
pros?
didn't. Yeah, he never played in the pros. He only
Okay.
ever played minor league.
Okay, yeah, no, I
I think we
figured as
talked
much.
about this in the first
Yeah, we
episode,
did.
but
Yeah, you can go watch that episode again to get like a better information on this. This obviously isn't based on that story of Doug Smith's career. So this is a good bit different. So it's not as relevant as here as it was last time. Yeah. So here's the next thing. As they're leading up to the game in a sequence
oh
which
wow.
I was
Um,
sure. What were we saying? What
I
were you
was
saying?
just reading through Burchell's like filmography here.
Yeah.
He was involved in the writing of Captain Canuck.
Oh, the comic. Yeah. I guess
Yeah,
I haven't read a lot.
I
I
didn't know
I
this.
think I've read one Captain Canuck comic. Um,
So was it good?
it's one of the newer. It was a newer one, and I didn't really care for it too much. It was kind of
Hmm.
meh. He had a cool costume though. It was like a cool like armored suit, which was kind of cool looking. But yeah, no, I didn't. It wasn't. The story wasn't all that good. It might be better in the past. I don't know. But anyway, our films also kind of like I've laid out the backstory. But our film really opens with Doug Glatt, played by the still very funny Sean William Scott, in a sequence I was sure was a dream sequence. Like, I thought for like the first 5 minutes of this movie that they were going to be like going into like this being Doug's dream, because he's getting promoted to captain, which is a choice. The captain, by the way, for those of you who don't play hockey, the captain in hockey is like respected as like the highest player on the ice and is like the only team member who's allowed to like talk to officials. But I guess it's not, as far as I can tell, it's not actually a requirement that you be like the best player on the team. But usually it's assumed that the captain is the best player on the team, I would have thought. Or like a really good player at least. And Doug Glatt's not that. Because, yeah, Doug Glatt's pretty bad at hockey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know.
That's
What do you?
really weird.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that there was like that. Like, honestly, I didn't realize there was actual like rules around it.
There's not really. To be fair, not real. There's not
Yeah.
really rules. It's more tradition. It's not like you're not gonna go like no one's going to jail because they put Doug Glatt in the captain's chair, um, or anything like that. Like they're perfectly allowed to do it. I just don't know. I don't see why you would, because he's not like he's here for like his leadership potential, which I think is more morale potential because he keeps the team like morale up, which is kind of like his power in this sort of. I don't know. Is he qualified to be captain of a hockey team?
Once again, it's more of like an honorary thing. So, like, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, essentially they're yeah. So he gets the captain C, which they put a C on their jersey to represent that he's captain, and he gives the team a bit of a speech and gets them hyped up, and they go out onto the ice to face the Wolf Dogs, headed by the son of the GM. What's the fucking guy's first name? Fucking, it's some Anders Kane. God, that's such a generic villain name. Anders. Anders Kane. It's like, could they should have come up with something a little
but
more.
it's really weird that they brought this guy in. I guess it's spelled differently. Never mind. Like there's currently a few. Okay, I guess there's just one. I thought there was like a group of kids. I really shouldn't call them kids. They're older than I am, but like a group of players in the NHL currently who own the name Kane as a last name. There was Patrick Kane, but I was thinking of Patrick Subban, who was a different player and also
Huh,
African American.
could
But
look
there is
pretty
a player
different.
named Patrick Kane who's
Hey, here's another thing. Did you notice that all the guys that Doug's fights are taller than him?
like I don't like Sean William Scott's not that short.
Yeah, no, but they
Is
just
he?
found everyone in the rink, everyone in this movie was a bit taller than him. To like a small extent sometimes. Like the guy who plays Ross Rhea and Anders and Wyatt Russell, they're only like a little bit taller than him. Like maybe like optimistically Wyatt Russell has like 4 inches on Sean William Scott. But then they do also find one
Mm-hmm.
guy that's like ludicrously big. It's one of those. Yeah, it's just weird. It's a thing they're doing to make him look smaller, I guess, which is interesting. And it wasn't something I so much noticed in the last one because Ross Ray is a bit taller, I think. But anyway, yeah. So Anders Kane is on the opposing team. He's the son of the Highlanders' new GM, and he goes in and just gets like breaks Doug Glatt's stick in half with his stick, and then they start a fight, and Doug just gets destroyed. Like, he gets the shit beat out of him to like the point where he's like, for the rest of the movie, he has a permanent injury on his right arm. Right arm. Yeah, right arm. Yeah, so that, and that's basically just takes him out of the season for 2 months, and he, like, for a while, just decides to like quit hockey for a bit. Like, he goes on and gets like a insurance salesman job, and he full on retires. And yeah, that's the next scene. We get a bit of a instance that Doug has a concussion, which they bring up in the movie, but it doesn't mean much. It just kind of sits there that like the characters in this movie have post concussion syndrome, which I think you can right ignore, because I think that idea was a lot more present in people's minds in 2017 than it was in 2010. Yeah, it's just something that's sitting there and it doesn't do much. It affects the characters, but what do you think? Does it mean anything that these guys have concussions to the movie?
Downplayed a lot,
Yeah, yeah,
like a lot. Especially with all this information coming forward, the fact that the movie was only made in like 2016, they really didn't address concussions as much as they probably should.
and granted, like, in the like their point would probably be, maybe, look, it's to some degree distracts from the premise, which is just supposed to be like kind of like laughed off. But yeah, and then
Mhm.
maybe you don't bring it up at all. But I mean, the injuries are there regardless. But I don't. Yeah, they obviously can't do it to its full extent, because like the worst things that could happen would be pretty rough on these characters and would make this an entirely
Yeah,
different
and
movie. I don't know if there's a good answer to that, where like you pick which way to do that properly. If there's a
I'd like to point out that like you're saying that there's definitely stuff that Jay Baruchel could have done to address like post traumatic concussion syndromes. I don't know if that's actually
they were
the
calling it
official
post
name for
concussion.
it, but
Yeah, they were
like
calling it post concussion syndrome in the movie, so I think we'll go with that.
he briefly touches on it, which is really good for Jay Baruchel in my opinion. Uh, but like once again, it's comedy.
Yeah, this isn't a movie where like you can make a whole thing about it, and maintain the tone the way it is. Which, yeah, I don't know the answer to that one.
But like
Yeah,
you have like Liv Schreiber's character from the first movie, Ray the Boss, uh whatever his last name was. I'm
Raya.
drawing blanks on it. Uh Rhea, the character who's like he's been doing this for a long time in the movies. Like you could have definitely touched on it, but instead you brought in his character to be like a guide and kind of like a nod to.
Yeah, and it doesn't like do any, like, all this concussion stuff's brought up, but it's not used to like discourage anyone from fighting. Like, it's
Mhm.
very much still, fighting's a thing you do, particularly hockey fighting. Like, none of these guys decides to take up a boxing ring or anything. Although Ross Rea would be way too old to do boxing like professionally, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think they're
Yeah, but like
prepared to deal with it properly. Yeah.
arguably, if that's the case, then like if we're talking strictly based on the fact that Ray is old, like you'd think that like these young 22-year-old hockey players would still be able to kick the shit out of him just based on the fact that like they would have more. They're younger,
Yeah. No,
but
they still treat
then
the
again,
yeah. Yeah, they still treat the trait of being a thug with a certain amount of reverence, which maybe wouldn't, if you were full on going at this from the angle that like, oh, concussions are really bad and we need to take them seriously doesn't really fly with that. But yeah, so we get introduced to Doug Platt's new office, which is built out of a storage shed. There's people pissing on the window, and they talk about that. And he's like, it's a really shitty building they're in. It's ridiculous. They make some jokes about it. It's just here for some comedy. It's not really terribly important to the plot. It's just we just realize that like this is some like we just assume that Doug is going to be out of his depth here, and he is. But it's just like the jokes are just are just supposed to be funny on their own. It's not really about Doug being there. It's just portraying this place as a shithole, which I don't think really bothers Doug all that badly. I think it's just that the job sucks. I really don't like if the building was nice. I don't think that would make Doug more comfortable here.
Yeah, I don't. Once again, in my opinion, the tonal shift from the original movie has changed so much in the second movie, and like you can definitely tell that like Jay Baruchel wrote and directed this movie
It's also 7 years later, so
because
it's a long like gap. Yeah.
of of how the jokes change from like the original film to the second film. Like, sure, the original film had some like raunchy humor in it every once in a while, but this is
Yeah.
like it's just for example, this scene they're like, oh, there's a hobo pissing on your house or on your office window. Um, don't worry about it though. It won't affect you at all up until sundown comes. And then he pauses and he goes, that's when the hand jobs start. Like that wasn't in the first film. There's no like weird
Yeah.
hobo hand job like side note within that. Like, so you can definitely tell that like Jay Baruchel was like, you know what, this movie franchise needs more hand job jokes, and then he just like delivered.
It's very ad-libbed is my impression.
Yeah.
If you I think that what sold that idea like confirmed that for me. Maybe people who are more comedy experts will be able to tell this probably a lot sooner. But like I realized it when I was like watching the outtakes and the credits and they just showed the different takes of the thing and they were very much going with Jay's sense of humor for a lot of it, which I think maybe they needed someone else to like draw him away from that and like not do all his favorite jokes. Although some of the outtakes are still
like
pretty funny, but I don't know. Jay's also one of the worst.
in my opinion,
Yeah, Jay's also the worst offender in this movie for these raunchy jokes. Like his are the worst out of anyone's.
that and the Russian couple, like the two Russian brothers.
Yeah, but like they don't seem like as they're doing it to. Here's the thing. They're doing it to intentionally annoy someone. Jay's character is doing it to just because he's a dumbass. I think is the difference there. Like they
Yeah.
absolutely go like I fully grant that they're going to like a similar degree of raunchiness, but Jay is doing like they are doing it to purposely be annoying. Like that's part of the joke. Whereas like Jay's character Pat is just like a dumbass you kind of hate,
Hmm.
who's just like terribly annoying. And would get punched in the face by anyone who's not Doug Glatt. Like Doug's just too nice a guy to punch punch Pat in the face. But yeah, after that we get our next scene where they're doing a baby shower for or a pregnancy shower or just having some sort of party for Avi. No, that Ava, who's pregnant. This was clarified a little earlier in the movie. They play strange animal in the you're a strange animal in the background, which is just permanently etched in my brain as a song that's about fucking werewolves now.
Oh.
Because of the Wolf Cop franchise. Oh yeah, you haven't seen the second one. You know how in the first one there's a sex scene where they do Moonlight Desires over the sex scene? In the second one, they do "You're a Strange Animal" over the sex scene. So that's what those songs are about. Those songs are both, yeah. Those songs are both about fucking werewolves now. Sorry, did you?
Did we watch Wolf Cop 2?
No, we haven't, but I've seen it, and then in the second, I'm telling you that much.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, those songs are both about fucking werewolves now. There's just no getting around that. That's just how they're etched into my brain. Um,
Hmm.
just in like that's the name of the Spotify playlist with just those two songs. I don't know what else would go on there. But yeah, Pat shows up in this scene. He's really annoying. So Pat eventually takes Doug out to see some hockey fight tournament where Ross Reyes participating, and he's beating a guy up. Doug voices his frustration at being really bored at work and not liking it. Um, and he gets the idea seeing Ross fight that Ross can teach him to fight because Ross punches with his left hand, and Doug would need to learn to punch with his left hand because his right arm is. Yeah, that's a thing. We cut back to some news about Halifax, the Highlanders. They're down 12 points. Hiram Kane brought in traded to get Anders onto the Highlanders as the new captain, and he is doing a bad job. He's antagonizing the team and is just not a good leader at all. So, and he's also getting into fights a lot and like doing a lot of penalty time. So he despite being a good hockey player, he's not giving them any extra points, and he'll eventually get suspended later in the season. He gets suspended twice actually during the season, during the movie, which yeah, that was rough. Or that's a thing. Anders is a big dumb guy. He's portrayed as like the evil Doug. He's kind of like the Venom to Doug's Spider-Man, I think is a good analogy because he's stronger and better at hockey, and he's very vindictive and has some unhealthy habits he learns from Hiram, who's less of a villain in this than you'd probably suspect watching the movie. Like I kept expecting him to do like a big heel turn where but yeah, not really. Yeah, he's just yeah, I don't get the impression that he's a big villain, which he was maybe being played up as. Just seemed like he wanted his son to play on his hockey team. Doesn't seem like that bad a thing to do, despite him seeming all sinister and having a sinister name.
There was like clearly some favoritism shown towards your
Oh,
kid
true.
as somebody who's a general manager of a team. I don't know if he could specifically be doing that as
Yeah, but is it
um
evil though? I
I don't
mean, I
know.
don't think like if here's the question. I think if Doug hadn't have been if Anders hadn't have like basically knocked Doug out of the league, would he still have been recruited to the Highlanders? I think so. I think the answer is probably yes. I don't think that getting Doug flattened was part of the plan. At least on I don't know, maybe it was. It's maybe implied it was, but it doesn't I don't see why that would be a necessary component of the
Would
plan.
his character definitely implies it is. Wyatt Russell's
Yeah.
character, Anders, the Kane guy.
Yeah, true. But
Anders
yeah.
Kane.
I don't know that it's Hiram's plan
Why
though.
is that so unrememberable? Yes.
Yeah, and like it's implied that like Hiram was like pressuring like Anders to do a bunch of fighting and like made him be the best all the time, and like there's a thing that's brought up about how sunflower seeds are only for winners. But yeah, that's not demonstrated within the text of the movie. It's just backstory, which is fair, but I think there's maybe even the potential that uh Hiram's changed. And if Hiram was wanting like Doug out of the team, he wouldn't have probably recruited him later in the season, which will happen in a little bit. It's a weird character. So Doug goes to check with Ross and get some training to like train to fight, which is eventually which results in a montage of just what song did they play in the montage? I forget. That was a thing that needed to be do you remember?
This movie had a couple bangers in it, and I don't
Oh
know
yeah,
what
music's good. We can find this out.
into. So that's what I'm looking for.
I also don't have it in my head because I learned all these 80s montage songs, and I'm saying this respectfully, but they kind of all sound the same a bit. And I just listened to like The Touch by Stan Bush on my drive to work this morning. So I've kind of, it's kind of like messed up my ability to figure that out. Oh, it's probably Dare by Stan Bush. So that's probably why I got confused because it's also a Stan Bush song, right? That's almost certainly the answer.
I don't know who Stan Bush is.
He's the guy that did The Touch. It's the theme song to Transformers, the 80s movie.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I listened to the song. I know what that is.
Yeah, so that's a thing. So yeah, that's yeah, so we get that montage where he's doing some training. Doug is lying to his wife because he made a big deal about working somewhere safe and doesn't want to tell her. Especially when he ends up in the hockey fight tournament a little bit later. Between that, the montage and the hockey fight, we see some hockey playing going with the Highlanders. Essentially, part of the problem is that Kane isn't covering LaFlat, who is the was the best player on the team, maybe still is. But essentially, the dynamic that had formed during the last movie was was that Doug would cover LaFlat, and so that LaFlat could get more goals. But Kane isn't doing that, so LaFlat ends up not getting his points, and Kane isn't getting his points because he's getting into fights all the time and getting a bunch of penalties. So yeah, the team's kind of falling apart.
Just like he's not even like he's not fighting for the sake of fighting. He's just fighting at this point.
Yeah, no, he just
Like
kind
just
of
egotistical fighting. Uh which kind of brings me onto like another point I was going to make here was like when do you fall past any form of liable risk as an individual player?
Oh, you're saying like when at what point does like a hockey fight turn into something that would get like you in actual legal trouble?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that that's been firmly answered. Um I I think there's like some to some degree like a like an assumption that like shit happens like you
Mhm.
sign a thing that said you essentially I think in like that level of sport you sign a thing that essentially says if you get hurt it's like not like a thing you're going to pursue an assault charge against, but I think there is probably like a level to which that would stop being true, to be fair. But it's just yeah, I just don't know. I think the legal precedent would have to I'd have to like look up legal precedents for that. And I think it might be very different depending on where you end up going to trial there. Like it's something that could happen. I think I don't see why it couldn't, but I think there is some legal protection as long as you can kind of like hand wave it.
Yeah.
And like obviously, if like there's also like in game, like not so much in the confines of the game. Like if they can take him out of the game, like suspend him for the game and like give him like a several game suspension if they think he's doing anything too bad. There's also like
Yeah, it definitely happens in the movies a couple times.
and you can like find hit and you can find the team for certain things. Though that would be like a league issue. Like the Maritime Hockey League would like find the Highlanders, presumably, and maybe some of that stuff happens. We don't see all the behind the scenes stuff. We're just the important thing to the movie is that they're losing games and they're squandering this opportunity to get some points in. So I think that's the important thing to the movie, and maybe all those stuff, maybe some of that stuff does happen, but it's just not shown on screen. Who's to say?
Yeah.
So yeah, Doug Glatt goes to this hockey fight tournament with Ross, and it turns out it's like a pseudo line brawl where like where it's like a big battle royale where like 10 guys are gonna fight. We also get like a cameo from Doug Smith in this. He is you can point him out by him being the guy that Sean William Scott headbutts during these fights. And yeah, essentially it ends up in a big fight. Ends up just being Ross and Doug left, and Ross is looking really bad. So Doug just kind of like helps him limp off the ice as like to end the fight, because Doug's not gonna beat up a guy who's like severely injured just because he's the opponent. So this fight is also happening at the Highlanders home arena. So Hiram Kane sees the fight and he knows that Doug is active so that he can Doug's doing this to rejoin the Highlanders, and this was his way of getting Hiram's attention so that he can maybe get back in. It's also pointed out that these sort of hockey fights are banned in 6 provinces, and I thought that was kind of funny because you could kind of like, what do you think are the 4 provinces? Because obviously Nova Scotia, because that's where this is happening. Probably Alberta and Saskatchewan. Let's be honest, it's us two. And then who do you think is the 4th one?
Who are banning hockey fights?
Who is where this isn't
Like,
banned? Like it's stated in the movie that this sort of hockey fight tournament is banned in 6 provinces. So
yeah.
that means there's 4 where it's legal. I think like that's clearly one's Nova Scotia. I think 2 of them are probably out here in Saskatchewan and Alberta. What do you think the 4th one is? Just as like a thought experiment.
Provinces. That's where I'm drawing blanks on, because like probably Ontario
Yeah, Ontario
would
is a
be the
decent
4th
bet.
one where this is legal.
Yeah, that's a good bet anyway.
Yeah.
There's a chance, but that could also be like the wild card I think would maybe be Quebec, cuz maybe, but it's not like a firm possibility. But like maybe. I could see it being, if you said it was true, I wouldn't be like, "Yeah, that makes sense."
Quebec is French Canadian. We don't
Yeah.
we
But yeah,
don't think like they do.
yeah, no, exactly. Like I don't have like the whole like they're big hockey fans. They might be into it, but I'm just not sure.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think
Yeah.
Alberta and Saskatchewan are probably a certainty. I think another one maybe
Oh yeah.
Manitoba. That's possible, but I'm less
Yeah.
certain. Yeah, I don't I like, unless PEI, just as like a matter of like no one would be doing it there and they just haven't bothered. Like that's also a possibility.
Well, that's why it discredited out like some of the territories,
Prince Edward Island, by the way. Yeah. um
because then when you said provinces, I thought of all of Saskatchewan, and then I was like, wait, there's 3 territories like in Canada.
yeah, I assume, okay, either they're not counted, like either it's legal in all 3 or it's not legal in any of them, or it's just like another not relevant because there's not too many people up there, though there's definitely hockey games up there, I'm sure. I don't know, what's the Northern Canadian hockey scene like? But yeah,
Are
that's
you?
interesting. Yeah,
Was that an
interesting.
actual question?
No, you don't need to look up what the Northern Saskatchewan Hockey League. Uh I'm not sure how tenable
It's
that even
probably
is.
really good.
Oh yeah, it's probably nice. It might be more house games. Just because there's like a, I don't know what the highway systems are like up there. Yeah, then again, I don't know. Then again, the hockey takes place over the ice roads might be open. I'm not. This is like a bunch of This is just not this is a bunch of circular reasoning. I'm not going to go further into this. Um,
It, like every single Canadian stereotype that I can think of, like, oh, you live in a frozen wasteland. I mean, like, yeah, technically we do. Is like minus 38
oh yeah,
degrees
it
out
for the
today
for
in
the listener.
Celsius.
The date we're recording is January the 9th. It has been like below 30 for like 14 days or like 10 days, with maybe one exception.
Mhm.
This is how it is below minus 30 degrees.
Well, the nights have been really
Yeah.
bad too, like minus 50 in Celsius,
Mhm. Oh
um,
yeah, no, it's gone
for
bad.
Fahrenheit. That
The
is.
high's been like minus 27. That translates into Fahrenheit. It's about the same. Like minus
Mhm.
40 is the same in Fahrenheit. But I think Fahrenheit's a lot more specific. But I mean, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that happens. Yeah, they talk a bit about what's going on. Doug actually asks Ross if he wants to go to the hospital, and Ross says, "Why bother? They just so they can tell me I have post concussion syndrome." Which I think we've talked about that. I'm not going to carry on about that too much. We just be repeating ourselves. We go back to the Highlanders' point of view. Kane is trying to lead by intimidating his teammates into doing a better job, which doesn't work, obviously, because it's like, oh yeah, no, you'll score more goals if I tell you I'll beat you up if you don't. That doesn't work. Kane ends up beating up some guys and getting suspended, and that ends up yeah. So they have to get someone to cover. Where Hiram and the GM and the coaches are having a meeting, and Hiram recommends that they just bring Glad in to maybe unify the team a bit more. So they bring him in, and they bring him in for practice, and yeah, eventually it results in like Doug and LaFlat teaming up and winning a practice game, and yeah, that gets Glatt back on the team. Hiram does some things where he doesn't want Anders to look bad, which is a bit in contrast with a bunch of his other actions in the movie. But yeah, I don't know. That's just not really well placed. Like he's really desperate not to have Glatt win this practice game for some reason, which I don't know. I don't know that protecting his
Pride,
son.
I guess. Like, I was just gonna say, like he greenlit every single choice he made,
Oh yeah,
up until this point, and the fact that he made these choices is kind of started backfiring on him, and like I guess out of pettiness.
yeah. No, and like, what is this to preserve his son's ego? That's like his ego. Like his son's ego is giving him a lot of doing a lot of work for him right now. I think he needs to be a bit more of a parent in this situation, which is implied that he's not going to, and maybe he's just like this is just his character flaw manifesting. But I don't think we spend enough time with this character to like be able to like firmly say this works. You could maybe swing it if you like
Yeah,
did
he
another
he
scene,
definitely.
but it doesn't exist as work. Yeah.
Hmm. You definitely see like the father character throughout the story this movie. He's definitely playing like the role of like somebody who wants his son to succeed, but he also wants his team to succeed.
Yeah, and there's implications that he's a bad dad too. But like he's a very like he's on the verge of being a complex character, I think. Like you maybe throw that in, maybe like if you throw a couple more scenes in this ends up working, but it doesn't currently. But maybe you could make it work if
Hmm.
you tried hard enough. I'm not sure. Um God knows, like who knows if Jay was smart enough? Maybe he left something on this cutting room floor, but I don't know. But
Yeah,
anyway,
but with that being said, if he did forget something on the cutting floor, like, maybe take out 1 or 2 hand job jokes to, like, further develop your main villain, like
Or maybe just have Jay cut himself out of the movie.
for like, the whole 10 seconds where he's pretending to give, Doug a rim job,
Yeah,
maybe we needed less of that and, like, an actual,
yeah,
character arc.
yeah. He's Jay, like Pat's role in this movie is to like bring Doug to the hockey fight tournament, and then also like be a brief place for Doug to like he needs to be there for Doug to interact with a little later in the movie yet. But there's a lot you can cut out of, like a lot of scenes you can get rid of in the middle where he's just not terribly necessary. Or they could have at least retooled
Like,
it. Yeah.
yeah, you could have just given him like a cameo and like just wrote off the character or like yeah, just giving him like a brief like, oh yeah, here's Jay Baruchel in the first movie. He came back for like 2 seconds
I can see
or like
establishing him, but they don't need to give him as that he does not require a lot of screen time.
you could have given like because like the original character he just did like internet commentary on uh I can't even remember the name of the
No, he was on local television.
okay, so he could have like they could have been like they could have written him into like the TJ Miller character where the they
True.
called him up and got a job working on Sportsnet and he's just like off to the side giving thumbs up to TJ Miller's character who's like just throwing out off the hand like topic sentences or
Oh, and here's another
slogans.
thing. You could have replaced his character with Xavier, like LaFlame.
Well, Lil
Like,
Flame, you could have done it with Ray. Like anybody could fulfill this role at which basically just sums up Jay Baruchel in like most of the movies he plays in.
but yeah, no, he could have because he'll the reason he's with Doug's with um Pat in later in the movie is because he needs the place to stay, and he was staying with Xavier in the first one, so that would have been a nice callback actually.
Mhm.
And LaFlame could have showed up to like the baby shower at the beginning easily, or taken him to the hockey fights even maybe a little bit more out of character there, but yeah, no, he didn't need to be. Yeah, no, you could have replaced him pretty easily actually. The more I'm thinking about it, but yeah, so because Doug is gonna have to play is gonna get a spot in the Highlanders, he has to confess to Eva that he is going to be on the Highlanders, and she's actually pretty cool with it actually because he's saying he's not having a lot of fun, and it was just like this was just like a conclusion they reached at the time. She didn't like force him into it. She was just being supportive when he brought up the idea. And yeah, she just was like, yeah, it's okay, but like don't fight anybody. Because we don't want you to get really hurt. Although that's a weird caveat because body checking can do just as much damage, can't it? And that's a lot of his job.
Well, like somebody like it wasn't even like a cross check I watched earlier, but like and I think Ray got in trouble in the last film where instead of checking somebody, he just took the back of his stick and just smashed him upside the head with it.
Ooh, yeah, no.
And they did that again in this movie at some point in time. And nothing was ever called about it. I think that's how
Yeah.
Anders takes out Ray in the final hit is he does a completely illegal
Yeah.
move at some point in time.
Yeah, so that's a thing. So yeah, Doug plays his first game back, and he ends up it's actually pretty funny. He goes into the team, he goes into the game, he does some checking, they're starting to win a bit, and Glatt gets thirsty and ends up stealing the enemy goalie's Gatorade, which and they just have a funny interaction where it's just like, I mean, there's no rule that says he can't, which I kind of believe. Like that's maybe, although maybe that I feel like there's definitely a rule in hockey where like the goalie can't have food brought out to him. But
Okay, so about this, so there was a player for the NHL named Sean Avery. I don't remember if I told this story on this on the podcast before in the last movie, but Sean Avery was known as just being an asshole. The weird thing about this is, so okay, there's a character in this, Mary, who's Eva's sister, who's played by Alicia Cuthbert, who dated Sean Avery.
huh,
That's the weird connection. But he was a hockey player, and he what he did, Martin Brodeur, big name as a goaltender for, I do believe, the Coyotes for a long ass time. Maybe it was the Avalanches. I can't remember.
he was on the New Jersey Devils for a long time.
Yes, yeah, that's who I'm thinking of. Anyways, he was screening Martin Brodeur at one point in time, but instead, in screening, you normally stand in front of the goalie, but you're facing towards the rest of the game going on, right? Sean Avery got right to Martin Brodeur's face and took his stick and sat there and swung it back and forth in the goalie's face. But because he wasn't touching him, it's not counted as goalie interference. Up until that day, when after that it was implemented something called the Avery rule, where you can't do that. like, like, imagine being such an asshole that you have a rule named after you.
There's a lot of these stories.
But also, Dion Phaneuf, who I do believe was playing with the Maple Leafs, ended up dating Alicia Cuthbert. Avery came out and said something about Canadian hockey's players always taking his sloppy seconds or something, and it was like, I think he got like a 6-day suspension for that comment.
uh,
Like,
Jeez. So yeah, they end up winning that game. We cut to a scene where like the coach is trying to hype up the players while they're on a plane, but they're in like coach, so there's like 20 other people in this crowd. So he's not allowed to do the whole speech, and like the flight attendant is getting on his ass about it. It's kind of funny. So, I got a text here. Is Bob Saget dead?
yeah, he passed away.
Hold on, I'm just
I
looking
do
up something.
believe today.
What's that? Oh,
Yeah, he passed away today.
oh, I didn't see that. My
Uh-huh.
No, I got a text from a friend. He's just like, oh, he like showing his like big Full House box set, and yeah, no, I didn't. No, I didn't hear about that.
I didn't either up until, like, I think I literally put my computer down to set up my laptop for the podcast. Opened it up and saw on
No, I'm
Facebook that
seeing
he'd
like the
passed.
news
So,
stories are like 2 and 3 hours ago.
oh yeah, it's like when I saw it, it's like 36 minutes. So very recent.
I suppose I was at work, but yeah, I would have been finishing up work when that news broke. So whatever. Yeah, interesting. Sorry to. Yeah, that's rough to hear. Yeah, no, he was all right sometimes. So yeah, Doug and there's a big fight in the next game where Doug and Doug's trying to prevent like Andrew Adrian. I'm forgetting his name. I have completely lost track. I got too distracted. Anders. So
Anders.
Doug, yeah, Anders is dead set on fighting a guy, but because he's one of the team's better players, Doug takes it upon himself to prevent the fight or try to, but it doesn't end up working, and they end up making goofballs on themselves when they fall into the penalty box because Doug's trying to prevent the fight from happening so that Anders can play some fucking hockey like he's supposed to. Yeah, that ends up getting them both in trouble. and they both get a suspension, which results in them having a bit of a fight at the bar later. And they get really mad at each other. Like they're like they're trash talking each other, and like, or like Anders is like trash talking him, and like Doug eventually just snaps and like grabs Anders by the throat, but they end up like dragging these two apart because they get into such a big fight. Oh yeah, Anders slaps him on the back of the head with a beer bottle, like really pissing him off because this is Anders is very much like fighting the team on this one. It's not working pretty well. Yeah, so this results in Hiram releasing Anders from his contract because he's causing too much trouble. And he ends up getting picked back up with the Wolf Dogs, which I don't know that you can do so late in the season, actually.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure for the purpose of telling a story, they just kind of smudged
Yeah.
so much of the technical aspect of this whole entire
Yeah, there's like a no trade. There's like a, what's it called? The trade deadline? There's a word for it.
trade deadline. But I don't know if it might just be before the trade deadline, technically, yeah.
But yeah, there's a point in which in a usually in any professional sports season where you just can't trade after a certain point. And they're 2 games from the end of the season, so yeah, I don't think they can. Like this is obviously just a thing that's not real. That doesn't work out. At this point, they have a game, the second to last game, where Doug's still suspended and Anders has been released, and Laflamme steps up and like motivates the team and earns and does some stuff to earn himself the captaincy, which is pretty good. Although I think they would have had to promote him anyway because they don't have any other players to do that. But yeah, it's interesting actually because I think that's part of his character arc in this, where he needs to kind of learn to stand on his own, which wasn't, which it's not very like thoroughly done, but it's there. I think it works. It's a nice little moment. And then he, as after he gives that speech, he ends up winning a game, and then they go into the second to last, and then they go into the last game in which Doug can play after the between these 2 games, however, the baby comes. Which, oh yeah, this was a thing. I forgot all about this. After Doug and Anders get into a fight, this is of course gets brought to the news because 2 hockey players got into a fight after the game, and it was pretty violent actually. And there was a whole news thing in which they showed off that Doug had been in that bare knuckle brawling thing earlier in the year, which resulted in him and Ava having an argument in which he was kicked out of the house, making him stay with Pat. And in the meantime, there's like a conversation between Ava and her sister about where her sister kind of like brushes off what happened because she points out that Doug had to give up a lot for like what's been happening, and that this is maybe about more than, it's not really about him fighting, it's just a consequence of what he's doing and he wants to be part of the team. And yeah, I don't know about this speech really. It could be read as kind of diminishing some of the stuff that Ava's done for them coming to the family, but then again, we just don't spend enough time with Ava to like get a character arc. Maybe we need another scene about her talking about her point of view in this, but yeah, it just doesn't end up working out.
Yeah, they bring all the emotional hype to Ava's character and then have zero follow through.
Yeah,
Like,
she ends up just caving to everything. Like she
oh, I
doesn't.
don't.
Yeah,
Well, she's like, yeah, I'm kicking you out, Doug, for like 2 minutes, and then like 30 seconds later, they're like, oh shit, the baby's here, and then they're back together again. Like it just, I don't know. It feels like they were trying to uh push conflict when there really wasn't or shouldn't have been conflict.
Okay, I'm not gonna so much say that, but I'll say that Ava, the character that she is, she's not equipped to like make this a bigger deal than it is. Like
Hmm.
she's angry, but I don't think like she's the type that would like make this into a huge thing. So I think that's just a consequence of the plot. I don't mind it because obviously I could like it's fine, but it's just not like a brilliant example of
Also,
writing.
like, I don't think I can't. Here's my thing: Allison Pill is like, I can't even remember her original character from the first movie. Like, she kind of just
Well, same character.
wasn't that memorable. Wasn't that memorable of a character. So,
I find this consistent with her character from that, but yeah,
mhm.
yeah, it's just kind of she does it just doesn't her objections don't amount to much in like the grand scheme of things. And like I'll grant that it is kind of in character, but and it's not granted like a full like a more firm third act breakup would have maybe been worse because those can get kind of annoying. But yeah, I think it ends up being it just ends up being that the fact of the matter is her objections don't end up amounting to much, and she just lets Doug back in to do whatever he wants, which could be worse in different movies. Like Ava's character allows for these actions to happen. But yeah, she gives him after the baby's born because she has to call Doug to drive her to the hospital because her sister is out. So so him and Pat drive her to the hospital and they have the baby. And after the baby's born, Doug goes out to take a walk, and the entire team goes out to congratulate him on the new baby, which is kind of nice. It's kind of sweet. It's nice scene. Nice scene. It's a little weird because like all the European guys give him kisses, and that's meant to be a joke. And take of that what you will.
Except for yeah, okay. Even the Eastern ear, like the other, I don't know what the fuck. Okay, they never acknowledge where this guy was from, and they're just like, he keeps on handing us out candies for absolutely no reason, and
I
then
feel
when
they say it. I just
like
forgot.
everybody is like kissing Doug on the face, but this guy goes for like a weird as like neck kiss or something, and I was
Yeah,
like,
no, it's a whole
that's a choice.
it's a whole under the neck, like on the neck under the chin kiss. It's which is I'm assuming the joke. Let's see if I can
Yeah,
find this guy. Gord. I think the character's Gord Olgave. So he's some sort of Eastern European, I think. Can I find this? No, I'm not finding it in the synopsis. Doesn't end up working. Yeah, no, I don't think there's a whole explanation. They say where he's from. I just didn't catch it. They might have said he was Czech, but I don't
hmm,
think that's right. I don't know. I don't know what Czech people are like, so I can't really speak to that. So yeah, that's a whole thing. And it's kind of it's a nice scene overall. Like the sentiment's good.
sure.
It's just maybe like that weird. It's a weird joke, and maybe offensive. I don't know. It seems to be implying some offense there. But of course, it maybe be helped if like it wouldn't be it maybe be worse if like Doug wasn't such a nice guy and just didn't like take it in stride. And he's like, I know Doug just like gets kissed and he's just like, oh yeah, I understand and acknowledge this was a sign of affection. It's a little weird, but that's okay because he's such a nice guy, which is maybe saves the scene from being worse than it is. Like I can't imagine like the scene where he's just like, "Ew, gross, a man kissed me," being better. So yeah, they go into the next game. They've recruited Ross Ray onto the Highlanders. Um, that's another thing they can't do this late in the season. Also, he's basically retired, so that's maybe a terrible idea, especially like given that he's had so many concussions and whatnot.
Hmm.
He was maybe in the last game too, but that was yeah outside the point. So yeah, we get in our final game, which is between the Wolf Dogs and the Highlanders. With Kane leading the Wolf Dogs. Kane ends up getting a hold of the puck and fires the puck at Hiram's like corporate box, like almost shattering the glass and like not entirely shattering it, but like knocking some glass away out of the window and like scratching Hiram across the face. It's really fucking brutal, actually. It's maybe what in a better movie would be the moment where like Hiram backs off on his son or something. I don't know. It's a neat scene. It just doesn't. It's not great storytelling. I don't think there's not much to here.
That is a high that's a high shot.
Oh yeah, that's probably 100 feet in the air, right? How high are hockey stadiums?
Uh
Like, granted, this is a minor league
depends
stadium,
on
but it's maybe bigger than like
yeah.
our stadium in Estevan, but it's still like not like a small stadium. That could is that maybe 100 feet up? Could be. Hell of a shot though.
I couldn't tell you.
No, yeah, it's nasty looking though. Um, yeah, I wish there was more like emotional gravitas to it, and it might have been very cool. It might have been better.
Yeah.
Ross runs around and ends up punching like one of like beating up one of the like Wolf Dogs players, and then ends up trying to get into a fight with Kane, and Kane ends up back checking him and just leaves him, like takes him out of the game entirely, like he had threatened to do to Ross. Like Kane had threatened to make sure that Ross left this place in a body bag. He probably should be taken off the ice right here. I mean, Kane, he probably should be taking like a 5 minute major for this and getting suspended for the rest of the game, like right there. But that would end the rest of the movie, and that's kind of like a CinemaSins nitpick. It's just like, oh, this is where the movie should actually end. So yeah, this gives Glatt a reason to go in and fight Kane. So they get into a fight. Glatt gives Kane one big punch with his good arm, and then dodge like beats him up for a little bit. Um, Glatt takes a couple punch. Cack takes a couple punches before he dodges, sending Anders' fist straight into the glass, probably breaking his hand, which allows Glatt the opportunity to just wail on Anders and beating him up, finishing him. Glatt, as Anders is standing there, glowering at Glatt, all bloody and everything. He just says he's just making a whole speech about like this being how things have to be. They're going after. He's asked. We have to go out game after game to get all wrecked and whatnot. And he goes to back punch Glatt, and Glatt has to respond by hitting him with his bad arm, which knocks out Anders, but also brings him down because his arm's all fucked up. Hiram comes down to the rink to go check on his kid, I guess symbolizing that they're reconciling. Uh, Anders makes the point that says he hates this fucking game and just kind of laughs, which I think, I don't know, it's okay. What do you think of that scene? Do you have a thought to work on that? I don't know.
Uh sure, but like he's also the villain.
It's kind it's kind of implied that he's just like done with the game of hockey after that, which is fair.
Hmm. And I mean,
Yeah, implying perhaps that he doesn't like the game at all. I don't know. There's not a lot to this. This subplot maybe needs more work.
yeah, I was gonna say that, but I
Yeah.
think we've already said that. Also, like, is it just me or is like the amount of blood that they used in these hockey fights seemed like a lot more blood than what they used in the original movie?
No. I mean, the original was pretty bloody. Maybe a bit more, but it
Okay.
feels. I mean, there's also less fights in this.
Mm-hmm.
I think in total, but it's maybe I think it's on par. Maybe they do a bit more in this. I'd have to go back and look. But yeah, so everyone gets wheeled off the ice, and LaFlamme ends up scoring like a bunch of goals, winning them the game, and getting them into the playoffs, just like at the end of the last movie, which is maybe a bit detrimental. I feel like maybe they should have brought this into the playoffs. Also, how did they make the playoffs? They lost like 12 games in a row. Like, how bad was the league this season?
I'd like to put this out here, but like I think this movie notoriously did this really bad too. Like they don't show any of the playoffs. This isn't a movie about like a traditional sports movie where the main characters like are trying to win the big game. Like they still have a full playoff season to play. That's like never happens. It's never seen.
And they mention in this that this is only the second time in 10 years that they've made it into the playoffs. So that either means that this movie takes place several years after the last one, and there's like in universe time also, and that they like missed the playoffs several years in between this movie and the last, or that they could have just said a
Or
second
they
time in a row.
or they could have just actually said like second time,
Yeah.
implying that implying at when they said this that they've only made it once before by that
Well, in the
logic
last 10 years, but well, they said two times in the last 10
in the
years.
last 10 years.
But even they could have, if they had said 2 years in a row, like that would have at least, like that's a good sign for some teams, especially if like they've been on an 8-year slump.
Mhm.
That's not a bad sign. That's a sign of success a little bit. Yeah, I think they should have done something a little bit differently, if nothing else,
Mhm.
because this is very, very similar to the last movie's ending. And yeah, no, it just feels like the time frame's also unclear. How long have Doug and Ava been married? There's a lot here to imply that this is just taking place in the year after the last one, but assuming this is real time, that means they didn't make the playoffs for the 3 years in between this and the last one.
Yeah, I don't fully understand the
Hmm.
implications here.
I don't think, yeah, I don't think it's made clear either, unless I missed something.
Sure.
So Glatt watches the end of the game and ends up leaving the rink and the game as a whole, and that's the end of the movie. It's kind of interesting. I don't. Yeah, I guess that's where the last of the enforcers names comes from. Although, like LaFlamme's big speech before this game is like, "We're not going extinct," implying that they are the enforcers. Which yeah, I don't know. It doesn't feel like this has a great message behind it, or like a not a well thought out one anyway.
Yeah, no, I've got like notoriously like apparently in hockey the role of enforcer has been starting to like
Yeah,
being phased out where they don't need somebody whose job is to just like literally go onto the ice and fight somebody because of well exactly what you saw in this movie
yeah,
where they're awarded too much penalty minutes and those penalty minutes overall just affect how the game's being won at that point in time because like power plays are not good. Like if you've got a 4v5 or a 3v4 or whatever, you're at a man disadvantage and it's bad. So,
yeah, and also like you could just have like another good player in that slot. Like, like why not? Really?
mhm.
Like, are you like cap space would maybe be an argument, but I don't know. It yeah, it just doesn't. It's falling out of favor steadily. Although it's still around
Yes.
to a certain degree. Although maybe it's like less. It's
Oh
definitely
yeah.
probably less brutal than it was back in the day, even in minor leagues.
Mhm. Oh, probably more so in minor leagues, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no, minor leagues were a lot worse back in the day for this sort of thing.
I'm assuming like like it's the stuff you wouldn't see like off screen, right? Because like no big league. I don't think you can actually watch any like at least not here in Canada. Like you have to go to like Estevan Bruins games, right? Like if you wanted to see at the AHL level, right?
No, AHL level is WHL. would be the same thing. So that's a Regina Pats game.
Are the Bruins not
No, Bruins are below that.
WHL then?
No, Bruins is actually a bunch of they're like
Do we not have a
18-year-old.
team?
They're like teenagers. Some of them. They're a Saskatchewan junior hockey league team. So they're
Because I know like the Moose Jaw Warriors.
Yeah, I think there's a Moose Jaw Warriors WHL team and also a I don't think they're in the SJ. I don't think Moose Jaw Warriors is SJHL, but there is also and if there is an SJHL Moose Jaw
They
Warriors,
used to be.
there's also a WHL Warriors.
So from the 1966 to 1971, the Estevan Bruins were a major junior hockey team playing in the Western Canada Hockey League.
But yeah,
so they aren't anymore.
Yeah, no, not currently. Yeah, they're like those kids. It's basically kids playing on that team, basically, like old kids. I forget what the exact.
Basically, the people playing for this team would potentially go on to play in the WHL if they were good enough.
I think, the next episode will be a sub-theme thing. Stay tuned to the Facebook, and we'll give you an announcement of that. In the meantime, after that, in February, we're going to be doing a Wicker Man. I think we're doing Wicker Man 2006 in February, and also the movie True Romance, which I think is going to come first before Wicker Man. And then we'll do some other stuff in April. But yeah, no, keep an eye out for that. We're getting our fourth part of the sub theme, and that'll be their next episode here, pretty quick. But see you guys soon. Make sure to give the podcast 5 stars on iTunes or whatever podcast system you use. Like, comments, and subscribe on the YouTube videos at Kyle and Cody's called CinemaCast. And yeah, see you guys later.